and welcome to the CORY Morgan Show. It's December. It's winter out there. It sucks. There's snow everywhere. You can't make me like it. I'm never going to like it. I'm counting down the days to when I hide out down in Arizona. That's one of the news things that's been happening lately, actually. Their publisher, Derek Fildebrand, as you can see, it's a busy news day. He's been pacing and ranting and raving back there in this newsroom behind me. This is where it's nice to hide out in the studio while this sort of stuff going on. Like I said, one of those things going on is that a lot of Canadians, the vacation numbers are up in Canada and they're down in the States. And of course, they're saying that's all due to all the elbows up sort of stuff. Well, maybe a little bit. Most of it's due to our crappy dollar, I'm afraid. But it's not stopping me. I'm going to hide out down there, especially I got to take a break from that raving madman pacing back and forth behind me talking about news items. I'm going to have one of our news guys from that newsroom, Dave Wienick. He's going to come on and talk about a few things going on out there. It's a busy day in politics and in general. And I'll kick things off, starting with, let's talk about that Memorandum of Understanding, MOU. Now, Albertans are rightly skeptical of this MOU signed between Premier Daniel Smith and Prime Minister Mark Carney to build a new pipeline to the Pacific Coast. That skepticism morphed into hostile cynicism last weekend as Smith found herself booed at her very own AGM in Edmonton at the very mention of the agreement. Considering the message from Ottawa on the issue, though, why on earth should Albertans believe for a second that Carney genuinely wants a pipeline developed? If Carney truly supports what the MOU proposes, he'll come right out and address the misinformation surrounding the proposed project. He has to make it abundantly clear that neither the province of BC nor the indigenous bands within it have veto authority over the project. So far, he's refused to do so. And this isn't a matter of opinion. It's a matter of the Canadian Constitution. Interprovincial infrastructure is federal domain. BC has no more authority to block a pipeline from Alberta than Alberta the authority to block a railway line from BC. It's a consideration, isn't it? David Eby's blustering opposition has no power behind it constitutionally. He should be reminded of that. More importantly, though, Indigenous bands have no veto authority over any projects. Canada's constitution obligates the nation to consult with Indigenous bands if any projects are proposed that may impact treaty rights. A pipeline doesn't even impact treaty rights unless it crosses treaty land. No treaties for a lot of that BC, is there? But either way, consulting the Indigenous folks is still a nice gesture. Particularly those who might live near the right-of-way. That's fine. After consultation, though, there's no further obligations, whether it's with pipelines or provincial independence. There's been this pervasive myth surrounding the veto abilities of native bands. To be blunt, they haven't got them. Native reserves aren't sovereign nations, no matter what they like to call themselves, and their consent's not required to develop land. And this has been affirmed by the Supreme Court numerous times. Political cowardice has become so entrenched with this issue. Liberal government members have been forced to apologize for telling the truth. No, it doesn't happen very often, apologies or them telling the truth. But recently, in a rare demonstration of personal principles, Justice Minister Sean Fraser dared to utter the truth that Indigenous people have no veto power over the projects. Within 24 hours, Fraser issued a groveling apology for telling the truth. Currently, Liberal MP and Parliamentary Secretary for Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation, I think that's a mouthful, get this name, Talib Nuru Muhammad, has been saying on social media and in a CBC interview that Indigenous consent is required to get a pipeline constructed. So far, Talib's claims have gone unchallenged by the Prime Minister's office. So is he a rogue MP or is he speaking for the party? Liberal discipline's usually tight when their members go off message, yet Talib's carrying on without hindrance. Premier Daniel Smith's taking a lot of heat from her party membership over signing a deal that attaches many conditions upon Alberta's industries, and it appears unlikely the pipeline might ever be approved. She must demand the Prime Minister clarifies whether he expects consent from Indigenous bands of the province of BC to get the job done. No humming and hawing, no weasel words, just a yes or no answer. If the answer is that he expects consent from Indigenous bands in the province, Smith might as well use the MOU for toilet paper, since that's all the value it has. There'll never be consensus, and if the Prime Minister abdicates his role as the central authority on these issues, we're all just wasting each other's time. Respectful and meaningful consultation is important. Indigenous citizens must have their concerns heard and addressed when reasonably possible. Having their participation in projects is great too, and many will. Not all of them are going to approve, though, and rest assured, environmental activists will elevate them to some fabricated hereditary roles and use them as props for the opposition. The federal government must be firm in stating that the project will continue despite some opponents, but so far it's been as firm as a piece of overcooked spaghetti on the issue. Look, no private investor is going to touch the project without assurances of it being completed. No companies are going to expand production in Alberta without expanded ability to get their products to market. Then it's going to be truly time for Albertans to ask what the point is in remaining in Confederation. Really, what's the point? Let's put it to a referendum. I mean, the province can't become any more landlocked than it already is, can it? All right, that's what's got me going. Let's check in with the news editor. We got lots to talk about this week. How's it going, Nick?
Good, thanks for giving me a place to hide.
Yes. Well,
I think he may have gone back in his office now. So
Yeah. I see the feet on the desk from here.
Oh, excellent. Hey, Edmonton was a good time.
It was.
There's stories of you as the Western Standard Hospitality Suite doorman.
Yes.
Will become legendary in its time.
My scowling face. I took my old bar owner skills and applied them to the Western Standard Hospitality.
See your bracelet, you said. F you, says the guy. Well, no, F you. And the fight was on.
I didn't hit him.
No, you didn't hit him, but you chased after him.
I did. I kicked a couple people out.
Yeah, and it was a long day and a long night, and then we had to drive all the way back, and you finally got to sit in your recliner to watch your Steelers lose.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I didn't need to rush back to watch that garbage.
Yeah. And what about the Seattle? Oh, they won. They thrashed Minnesota Vikings, making them look like a high school team.
Yes, well, let your sea chickens have a year, and then...
There you go. Hey, I hear a funny story that apparently squirrels have eaten all your security cameras.
Just one of them. Oh. That's the suspect behind it. Yes, one of the... as I was mentioning, before, Jane keeps... our house is like Fort Knox. We've got cameras all over the place, in the woods, outside of the house. Nobody sneaks up in that place. And unfortunately, something had chewed through the cable on one of them back in the woods, and I had to replace
Not a bear or a wolf or...
No, I would have seen cracks or something, I think, because we never saw anything on the camera either. So fair just to come from behind. Though we did have a cougar go by a couple weeks ago, I guess. Now.
Yeah, dastardly squirrels.
Yeah.
Anyways, holy cow, where do we want to start in the news? Well, why don't we start in BC? Major developments in the John Rustad leadership. It's not a scandal, it's a leadership debate. Letter out today, 20 out of 39, so more than half of his caucus have said that he's got to go. So surely that's a tipping point when half your caucus says no, more than half your caucus says no, you got to go, right?
Oh, he's toast. I mean, you'll be impotent in the legislature. It's, it happens so much to these leaders. They become deaf, I guess, because, we've been seeing the signs, we've been seeing the troubles, we've been seeing the stuff rising within his party and in BC for a while now. And it takes really until the hammer hits them in the head before they realize, you're beyond the point of no return. Yeah.
No, he's a dead man walking. Disturbing story from the Alert police force today. They've charged a 17-year-old Calgary high school student with making AI child porn images of his classmates. It's like a parent's worst nightmare. So he's facing a long list of charges. A Brooks RCMP officer has been suspended with pay after being charged with assault and assault with choking after an off-duty incident recently. The premier in her Medicine Hat area riding has been officially now the subject of recall. The petitioners have got the required amount of, they're now going to start collecting signatures to see if they can have an official revote call on Daniel Smith. The long talked about, and I'm sure you'll be discussing this with Dave later on, the Calgary to Banff hydrogen rail line now has been officially, sort of the plan for it has been given to the Major Projects Office. So we'll see where that's going. $2.5 billion for that thing. Canadian Border Services says they have a total of 726 foreign criminals now running loose in the country that they've lost track of.
Well, considering their incompetence, that's not that bad. I think there's 30-some thousand in general.
33,000 in general that they've lost track at. But of those 33,726 are bad people, criminals.
So known bad criminals among us. But they don't take it seriously. They're not worried about that.
No. Well, apparently they're alleging they're deporting 400 every month, but then they're getting 500 new files to deal with every month. So either way, they're not doing their job. There's a big sort of scandal in Ottawa. The Governor General and her $4 million ICE pavilion that she's built. She apparently went to corporations and said, hey, why don't you donate some money and I'll give you a tax credit? So that's kind of a bit a bit sketchy.
No, I'm a tiny bit mixed on that one when I read it. Because normally the Governor General will just say, give me money.
Yeah.
They go straight to the source and spend pure tax dollars on it. At least she went out and kind of got some sponsorship for it. I mean, she still wants her, royal imagery and things. I mean, it's a rink that we probably don't need whatsoever. But one way they tend to piss away our money, that's one of the lesser ways.
Don't they have like an entire river to skate on in Ottawa?
Global warming is not frozen enough everything.
I know you were really impacted earlier this year with the, maybe it was last year, the Liberals' luxury tax on yachts and supercars.
Yes.
I know that
my Lamborghini is
So Department of Finance officials admitted that they didn't even do a cost-benefit analysis of it before Chrystia Freeland announced it. We'll throw 10% on this. It kind of hurt the boat selling industry in Canada quite a bit. And now the Liberals are repealing it, but there you go. And the JCCF, our good friends, Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, they're launching a Canada-wide campaign to convince provincial governments to bring in legislation similar to what Alberta did last week, where they're talking about regulatory bodies. Then they've now sort of overstepped their authority and going into free speech of their members and online posts and all that sort of stuff. JCCF just wants them to deal with their industry and their regulations and stuff like that. So Alberta was way ahead on that one. So and lots of other stuff I forgot already or still to come.
Plenty to cover. I see you haven't even had time to shave in this last.
You know what? It has been so busy. I normally say shave on Sunday. I have a routine. Sunday morning I shave. But unfortunately, I was asleep in your car.
Oh, yes, that's right. You were kind of out for the count.
I don't think I was very good company for most of that drive.
Oh, well, all I do is rant about politics anyways. You need a break from that.
No, I know it is. I remember you getting your McMuffin, and then I fell asleep, and then I woke up, and there was the Calgary downtown skyline. So,
like I said, I wish I'd let you sleep in, then I would have missed that god-awful Steelers game.
There you go.
Right.
Who are you playing this week? Oh, the Ravens.
Ravens. As I said, I don't hold high hopes of the Steelers winning that the way they're looking, but you can always count on them beating the living hell out of each other when the Steelers and the Ravens get together. So maybe just, if only for that sake.
And that's good football. Did you see the Giants field goal kicker on Monday night trying to do the field goal?
Oh, is that the one where he stubbed his...
He sort of stubbed his toe about a foot behind the ball.
Yeah, sometimes you can feel what you see on the...
Yeah. You talk about suffering as a Steelers fan, but holy cow, it's got to be hard to be a New York City NFL fan with those they're just losers.
Well, plus they got that mayor. There's just not much going
on. No, I'd be out of the Big Apple.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get back to the newsroom. He seems to be tied up, so you can get something done.
Feet still up or not, though?
No, they're down.
Okay.
Well, wish you the best.
Could mean anything.
All right. So, yes, that is our news editor, Dave Naylor. And I see, using that comment scroll, Jacqueline. And this is my perspective saying hello to both of us. Use those comments. This is live. And that's where I nag you. We've got to pay the bills, guys. Doesn't cost you anything to come on and watch this, but we would like you to subscribe to get to the main site of the Western Standard.news. That's how we fund that newsroom and that crazy publisher running back and forth back in there. It's $10 a month, $100 for a year. It's Christmas season. You can get a subscription for somebody else. And I'm not just kidding around. Why not, right? So people might really appreciate it. Get hooked on independent media. There's worse things to become addicted to out there, aren't there? So check it out. westernstandard.news/subscription. Take one out. So, where to start with a lot of that? Rustad, and he's in deep, deep trouble. But these political leaders, like I said, so many of them don't leave until the foot is really firmly planted. I guess some of it's just that instinct among them, though. They're type A's, they're ambitious people. They had to, scramble and claw their way to where they were. They just don't want to stop once they get there. We saw that with Jason Kenney. He had to be forced out by his own members, or Ralph Klein in the end, even. I mean, arguably the most popular premier in Alberta history, certainly historically, but towards the end, he didn't leave until his own members gave him a really lackluster, I think it was 60% or so support at the leadership. And, Rustad, he's had people leaving, crossing the floor on him, starting a new party. When you've got a tipping point of a majority of your members saying, your MLAs, your elected members saying, we can't support you anymore, you have just been neutered. You're ineffective. He must know this. And I think what a lot of people are anticipating, though, is somehow the BC conservative movement has to become unified again. I mean, the hard thing was there was the blow up from Falcon and the BC Liberals that changed their name to BC United or some bloody thing and then just fell completely apart. And that's what gave Rustad the start where he came, from bringing that party from next to nothing to within a hair's breadth of winning a majority in the general election. It's quite an accomplishment, but leadership is a tough thing. And then trying to hold it together for the 4 years until the next election looks like that's not going to happen. So they're going to have some decisions. Obviously, he's going to step down at some point. They're going to have a leadership race. Who knows who's going to win it? I mean, watch for Jared Yeager, our Western Standard guy in BC. He's on that all the time, excellently at Western Standard.news, because a lot's going to be breaking. It depends on what they campaign on, because they've really got a left-right battle going on in that party, just like we do everywhere. They got one BC, with Dallas Brody. She was on this show a little while ago, pushing quite hard on the indigenous issues in some other areas. And meanwhile, you've got parts of the Conservative Party, I guess you'd call them red Tories or whatnot, who aren't comfortable with that. Can a new leader unify that bunch? Can they pull it together? Or has somebody as terrible and incompetent as David Eby going to manage to get 4 more years just because the Conservatives can't get it together? Well, we'll be watching and seeing. One big step's coming up. All right, let's check in with Dave Winnick, or David numero dos, as I like to say. Our second Dave of the day.
All right,
No jacket?
Hey, this got sprung on me. Otherwise, I'd wear a suit for you.
Oh, geez, you don't have to. I'm still, as we've explained, it's a contract thing. I don't have to wear a tie, but I got to wear a jacket. Welcome to the CORY Morgan Show.
Well, thanks for having me. I have. It's been quite a while, actually. I think the last time I was on here was when Dave was on vacation.
Yeah, well, we got you as an exclusive now. You've been covering some pretty good stuff out there.
Well, actually, yeah, no, the major one today is that the Calgary Airport to Banff Rail, they finally submitted their proposal to the Federal Major Projects Office just yesterday, and they've been doing that for, I think, several months now. They've been kind of putting that together, but apparently now they've been basically waiting for Danielle Smith to sign that memorandum of understanding for energy with Mark Carney, and basically now they said now's the right time to get that added, and they're optimistic that it'll finally get added to the major projects list. There's only 11 major projects on that list so far, but I think this is the very first one that they've had that's Alberta-centric, shall we say.
So who's going to pay for this?
Well, Adam and Jan Wateros of I believe it's called Lyricon Capital are financing most of it. They've been the ones backing this for years. I think it's, if I remember correctly, I think it's $2.6 billion project dollars in total, and they are going to be funding it, and other private investors for about a $1.5 billion is what the actual original figures are going to be.
So with that, does that mean, because there's already a rail line between Calgary and Banff. I grew up in Banff as a kid. Actually, it's one of those memories I don't think I've shared on the show, but if anybody rode that passenger train that used to go to Banff, it would run right through town just before noon every day. And us kids who were off school for lunch, line up in the woods, because we'd play in there during lunchtime and moon the train as it was going by. So if they remember any little white asses they saw whilst they were taking the train. But there was a passenger line to Banff. It's gone now. So this means at that price, they must be building an entire new line.
They are actually, apparently. Well, I think the final stop is at that train station. That's the repurposed old train station that's in Banff, but they're going to have ones. I think there's Calgary Airport, downtown, Stony Trail at the Trans-Canada is going to be a stop. Then they're going to have ones Cochrane, Morley, Canmore, and then Banff. And I think it was in July or June, if I remember correctly, all of the mayors from each of those towns sent a letter to the Prime Minister saying that they totally endorsed the project. We're hoping that he would get it on the major projects list. So it looks like that could be very well a possibility in the near future. And apparently the whole line is going to be about roughly, they're estimating 150 kilometers.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds interesting because I still travel to visit my father. He's in a retirement home out in the Bow Valley area out there. And I drive that highway regularly and it's jammed. I mean, it's insane, especially in summertime if it's a weekend. But will this train really reduce that traffic?
Well, that's their main sort of goal behind it. Because, I mean, apparently, I think if I remember correctly, the whole Alberta government, I think by 2035, want to totally increase tourism to Alberta. So this is kind of playing into that because, as you know, I mean, the way the park is now, they're trying to basically discourage people from coming with, private vehicles, single like family cars and whatnot. So they're hoping that this will actually play into that and take away from the traffic. And obviously, now with Banff and that, the parking is just ridiculous. Now they took all the parking off Main Street. So they're hoping that this will alleviate some of that pressure going forward in the national park.
Yeah, it might. I guess as long as it's a private interest, there's just where
It is
my ears
predominantly,
perk up when the tax dollars start going, and then you see boondoggle. But
Is that a pipeline?
I'll maintain, I'll maintain some optimism, I guess, because Premier Smith's always been kind of a train person. You heard her husband own a restaurant and a train car in High River for years. Train people are a special breed, and I just wouldn't want us diving in. I prefer this over that Banff to Calgary or like Edmonton to Calgary.
The high speed one.
Yeah.
I think this will definitely have benefits. And she herself, Premier Smith, did say that she wasn't going to prioritize this until that MOU was signed. But now that the MOU is signed, obviously they've sent in the project for the approval.
Yeah.
And see what happens. So see, it's perfect timing, as they said.
It's more like a bite-sized new rail expansion to try before trying something like Calgary to Edmonton. So if it goes well, we could revisit in a few years.
Yeah, exactly. And they have a fairly set price for overall for the whole thing. So I guess we'll see how it goes going forward.
Right on. Okay, and you've also got some stuff on the pipeline, and put pipeline in quotes. I mean, I don't know if we're going to live long. You're young. You're still not going to live long enough to see this thing. But is it ever going to happen?
Well, that's the whole thing. If you look at the MOU, if you read between the lines, it seems the more and more people have gone into this, the more it just seems like there's little roadblocks that have been set up increasingly to make sure that this doesn't get done. It sounds good on paper, but as I've said before, there's no private sector proponent that we know of yet. So until that actually happens, and you actually get someone wanting to foot the bill and just give them a blank check, you don't see how that's going to happen. Plus, there's all the implications of co-indigenous ownership. We don't exactly know which indigenous groups that's going to be yet either. They haven't talked about that. I saw the other day that there was, I think it was the Métis tribes of Alberta were talking about that. And the coastal First Nations, who you were thinking would be the ones that would be involved, want nothing to do with this so far, but who knows what'll happen there.
Well, they're busy. They got a lot of garbage to clean up.
Just a bit, yeah.
I see it. Clean up your own damn mess before worrying about the pipes. Once that, I see a spotless Cowichan area, then you can perhaps start being a critic, because there hasn't been a pipe leaking. Trans Mountain's been going since the late 40s through there. Pipes are safe. Garbage dumps, on the other hand, are a real problem.
Oh, you would think so, yeah.
So there's other clauses, things there, though. You mentioned in your story, like buy Canadian. I mean, some of the materials and everything, it's going
steel. The whole thing's Canadian steel. I mean, you just look what happened here just recently with Algoma just laying off 1,000 employees and whatnot, and the whole steel industry at the moment, if I remember right. I think it was Algoma got $500 million in government cash here recently, so now they're laying off 1,000 people. And obviously, I mean, Canada historically is kind of a how would I put it? Basically, we've exported, I think, over half of our output. Usually about 90% of that goes to the Americans. But at this time as well, I think that if I'm reading this correctly, I think specialized pipeline steel capacity needs about $6 million to $1 billion in new investment at the exact time that a bunch of Canadian mills like Algoma were shutting down and basically like getting rid of workers. So I don't really know how the whole steel thing by Canadian steel is going to really work, because the costs are just going to go up when everything's tight and supplies tightening. So that's another thing that you kind of have to read in between the lines on this MOU, because they do say that they kind of want to promote Canadian steel, but it doesn't specify that they have to.
Well, it might be a selling point a bit. I mean, there's opposition across the country and battles going on. The bloc leader is blustering. Somehow he expects his welfare checks to keep coming, even if we can't pump oil for him. But I mean, with a hurting steel industry in central Canada, you'd think that, domestic, because it is the trade war going on. That is certainly hitting them hard.
50% tariffs don't exactly help.
But they got to give us a good price for crying out loud.
Well, you would think so. And I mean, as well, where's a lot of the steel come from? Metallurgical coal. And we obviously know what the whole thing is with coal in Canada. Just recently, the Coal Association of Canada actually sent a statement to the government because they want metallurgical coal designated as a critical mineral in Canada, just like it is in the United States. So we'll have to see how much red tape needs to be waded through before that actually comes about.
Yeah. Lots of complexity going on with it. I mean, the metallurgical coal has been a big issue in, the southern Alberta, and whether or not we're going to start mining or not.
Down the eastern slopes, there's still all that going on.
Maybe a referendum on that coming up soon.
There's a possibility, yeah.
We'll see. I see a question from a listener there, Jacqueline, saying, why does a rail line strictly in Alberta have to go through the major projects office? But because it would go into a national park. I suspect that.
It is going into another province, obviously, because the main route that they want to do is out to Prince Rupert and that. So I think that's the main reason why it would have to go through an actual federal major.
That's the pipe, actually. Sorry, I'm switching something.
Oh, you're talking to the rail?
Yeah, I was going to throw you for a loop somewhere anyway. So the rail line, but it's going through the major projects office, and I'm guessing, though, again, perhaps the fact that it goes into
it's the building. Yeah, it's the building as well under the criteria, I should say, under the Building Canada Act, as well as why it has to go through that. So it has to have federal approval because, as you said, it goes through the national park.
Yeah, okay, so that's part of
They're
it.
talking about the pipeline. Have pipelines on the mind.
Yeah, well, they're both big projects potentially going. One might have a better chance than the other. That will use a lot of steel as well. I mean, your lines are moving along. So, what else have you got in the cookery now? What are you working on?
Oh, well, there is something that'll be coming out shortly. I'll just say that it has to deal with the recall Nicolaides campaign, shall we say, that'll be coming out here shortly, because there's, as you know, there's a whole bunch. I think now it's up to 14 recall campaigns or whatnot for targeting UCP MLAs across the province, obviously. And now there's one just this morning that was targeting Premier Danielle Smith and her riding as well.
Yeah, well, in my view, at least with that one, it indicates just how they're using this just to mess with the system. I mean, anybody with common sense knows you've got to get 60% of those who voted in the last election to sign saying they want her out.
Yeah.
And then you hold another vote. And if it's a yes, then you have a by-election.
Then you have a by-election.
This is Brooks' medicine hat. I mean, you could run a tree stump with the UCP banner hanging off of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to win. So, and they know that. They're just spinning wheels. I mean, people got to realize, too, to get the reporting on these as if they're done deals for these recalls. I mean, all a person has to do is fill out a form and put in a deposit, and the recalls starts.
Oh, absolutely. That was the thing. And I mean, a bunch of them, if you look at some of the recall, the actual petitions, a bunch of them, it's clearly just politically motivated and has nothing to do with the actual MLA in that riding and what they've been doing for the job. Because some of them have been doing a fairly good job for the most part from a bunch of the people I've talked to in certain ridings. And as well, it seems as well that some of these, the first recall campaigns seem to be targeting ridings where the last race in the last election was fairly close. So they might have something there as well.
Yeah, well, the Nicolaides one, which had something over
was
here. First album was fairly close, and he is the education minister. So, I mean, that is the hot button.
Well, that was. The notwithstanding clause was the big thing, obviously, sending the teachers back after the strike and whatnot. A lot of people were mad about that. There's some people that you could say, maybe anti-oil and gas activists, shall we say, are taking advantage of this. That could be one little thing that we might be talking about later.
Okay, well, we'll be watching for that. I mean, that's part of this whole thing. I mean, the intent of this legislation, it was to get, if you've got an MLA who's had some mental health issues. It's happened before, things like that, or committed a crime but hasn't been convicted, or something really beyond the pale, or if it turns out it's like a senator. Way back in the day we had what was his name? Andy Thompson, I think it was. Or
can't remember.
He was hiding in Mexico for his whole time in the Senate.
Oh, there was a video.
He even come to Canada, just to show up and even vote. And you had no way to get rid of him as a Senate. But those were the things that recall was supposed to be for. When you just can't handle them anymore. I don't see anybody in the legislature right now that we couldn't survive 2 years without the chance to vote again.
Yeah, no, exactly. I agree 100%. But no, I just think it's like you said. It's the intentions are well and good, but I think a lot of people will just take advantage of that and use it for their own personal gain.
Yeah, which sucks, because I mean, what might happen then is the government is going to repeal or dramatically tweak it back to where it was, where it makes it fully impossible to have recall. And
exactly,
like that old saying goes, this is why we can't have nice things.
That's exactly it.
Well, I don't know. I'm mixed on it. I hope they don't succeed in getting rid of the legislation. I think they should let it go and let a bunch of them fail. I mean, it's a lot of resources and effort. People don't understand how hard it is to petition. Real petitions, paper
out there,
witnessed with a deadline,
knocking on doors,
and on recall. Technically, everybody working on that campaign has to live in the constituency.
They do. That's been another thing that there's been people talking about, people being bussed down from Edmonton and Red Deer to certain ridings in Calgary as well.
Yeah, which would certainly give the government grounds to say, well, sorry, they fouled the process and this one's no longer valid.
They're trying to figure out what elections Alberta's going to do about it, but I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, well, I haven't been liking where they've been doing lately.
I was just curious, do you think any of these will actually succeed, any of these recall petitions?
If they allow the outside union, and let's not beat around the bush, they're union people, if they allow it to happen for them to get on the ground and pound the pavement that hard, maybe. A couple of them or
maybe one or two
could happen. If it really is, as the intent is supposed to be, the people who live in that constituency doing it themselves, volunteering themselves, getting out and getting those signatures, I think it's really unlikely, because I don't think any of those MLAs have done anything that.
Yeah, maybe one in a more urban area, but none of the ones in rural areas like Grand Prairie or something. I find it hard to believe that would actually go through.
And it depends on how informed the person is. Like with this kind of campaign, part of it with Fabio, or also known as Lukasic, and his, let's have a status quo referendum. But what they did was set up in urban centers. They could pack people in from all directions to work on it and everything else. And they had nice weather. That's a big thing. You can say, because they set up a lot of farmers markets and sporting events and anywhere you can get a large gathering of people. With the recall one, you can't do that. You say, even if you could set up at a farmer's market, well, you don't know who's from in your constituency or not. You got to be really careful with that.
Exactly it.
Otherwise, you don't have those. You've got to go door to door.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah. Got to have a lot of volunteers for that too.
I'm not the one sweating it in the government offices, with one or two of these might happen and embarrass them or whatnot. But I think they should just let it go and let it fail. But
yeah,
watch like a hawk. As soon as you see that bus full of union maggots coming in, well, sorry, done, not happening.
I 100% agree with you.
Here's the process. Well, geez, that's no fun. Better when people disagree. We'll have opportunity enough. You've shaken off your hangover from the AGM. That was.
Oh, yeah. I think me and the rest of the staff had a pretty good party there.
Yeah, it was fun the second night with sipping my Diet Coke, watching you guys, your conversation getting deeper and deeper as you went along.
Yeah, no, I think it was a fairly successful AGM for the most part. A bit of controversy, obviously, with the whole Alberta independence thing, and Jeff Rath causing a bit of a stir with the Alberta Prosperity Project guys and whatnot. But on the whole, I think it went fairly well. And I think by the end of it, after the Premier did her keynote address, I think she had a lot of people on her side still, I think. So I think maybe a bit of the independence movement's numbers might be a little out of whack, I think, in terms of people that are 100% for it. But I don't know. There's so many conflicting reports on that. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, well, you can't measure public opinion by the views of the people who show up for an AGM. I mean, it was great to see 4,400 people paid a pretty good fee and have to go to Edmonton and in less than perfect weather. Those are very dedicated politicos. These are people dialed in and holding strong views on something or another. But your average person on the ground, that's a different mindset altogether. So that tells us where the party's sitting, but not necessarily where the province is sitting, which is a danger that a leader always has to get, work that balance out between what your party stalwarts want, but what's going to make you electable, which is the goal in the end as well. And I think she's got quite a conundrum going on.
I think so. I was going to ask you, do you think that that's kind of maybe fractured the party a bit now? Because it seems like people on the right always have a history of infighting, especially with stuff like this.
We're our own worst enemies. I was ranting a bit about that earlier. Like, all our history of past premiers, they haven't been taken out by elections. They've been taken out by their own members every time.
Jason Kenney, etc.
Kenny, Klein, I guess Getty was getting on the brink. It's pressure from underneath. Stelmach, Redford. That's just the way it goes. Smith's still popular, but it can and does change. I pointed out Klein earlier in the show because he was madly popular in Alberta.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But after enough time, he was he became not reviled. Thankfully, he went when he did, because it would have gotten worse. But his own members had said it's time, so it can turn on Smith. My thoughts again. I think she's got to give the Alberta Prosperity Project, those activists, the hardcore independent supporters. I'm an independent supporter. Give them a vent. Get the referendum going. That's my view. That's what I pushed repeatedly. I'll schedule it. I mean, I don't think Smith should get up and say I support independence. She wasn't given that mandate. No. She doesn't have enough popular support. But I think she's got a good case to make and say, well, look, on the left, Lukasik wants one on independence. On the right, APP wants one on independence. It would be remiss, not to say let's have one in late June. I think, just my own speculation for what little it's worth, a lot of those things in the MOU had hard deadlines in them, which is kind of a good point, saying, okay, this is it. Like, we got to, but she also had 9 points that were supposed to happen by Grey Cup that didn't really.
Yeah, and she said the MOU, I think, addressed 7 of those 9.
Yeah.
Something like that, if I remember.
Something like that. And still, it's all just a piece of paper promising things, but whatever. But if you made the referendum mid-June, because all those deadlines hit in April and June, that gives her some leverage when you're wanting to cross those things off that checklist to get things done as a referendum campaign is going on. Yeah. If they had a win, some of those things checked off, that could deflate some of the independence movement. And if this thing is spinning its wheels and it looks like Carney's jerking us around, that referendum support's going to go up.
Well, I was just about to ask you, if this MOU leads to nothing and no pipeline, do you think that's going to just skyrocket independence sentiment?
I don't know about skyrocket, but it'll definitely solidify it and make it grow, because, again, people have to wonder what the point is anymore.
Yeah.
But it would just, politically even just takes that pressure out of her party. You've got Jeff Rath, Mitch Sylvester, Dennis Modry, Chris Scott, great guys, pushing the independence thing, but they're spinning their wheels. They're stuck right now. So that's why the pressure's going to the party. That's the only vent they have. That's the only place they can exert pressure for this. And that's why she dealt with a room full of hardcore independence people in a room. If they're all pounding the pavement on a referendum campaign, they're out of her hair. Then she could work on the healthcare reform. She can work on the railway to Banff. She can work on all these other things in an MOU whilst the independence guys are busy doing their thing.
Absolutely.
That's my thoughts, but again, I'm just a guy who babbles online.
About the same, I would say.
Right on. Well, I appreciate all those updates and the stories. I'm looking forward to that other one coming up to see the possible fate of Mr. Nicolaides.
That's it.
See, I got it better.
He's education minister.
Right on.
Pronounce that in the last.
And all the rest of the good stuff going on. So thanks again, Dave, and
Thank you, Corey. Appreciate it.
see you later in the newsroom.
Will do. See you again.
Right on. All right, guys. Yes, lots on the go. Lots of speculation. It's good to get a chance to chatter with somebody other than Dave on these things. Well, different Dave, anyways. He's got some different views of his own. We got a lot going on. So, yeah, reporting on the AGM in general, though. I mean, I think as far as AGMs go, it was still a win. Like, the world has changed politically in Alberta. And I'm going to give credit to somebody who, was a character and so on, but the guy who really did it in changing member-driven type of politics in Alberta was David Parker with the Take Back Alberta movement. His was, almost obsessively focused on getting rid of Jason Kenney. That was the chip on his shoulder. That was his beef. But the mechanism he used to do it, you see so many other advocacy groups, they go into advertising, they go into doing stunts, they do all sorts of other things to get their way or try to change public opinion. What David Parker did was utilize the party's own structure to remove a leader. He went out and organized constituency by constituency by constituency. He sold memberships within the party by the thousands. And people were inspired to take part. It was kind of a magical part of timing as well, because COVID had happened. People didn't have much they could do outside of their homes, and they were pretty frustrated, and they were extremely ticked off with Kenney and with things in general. So people who'd never considered buying a political membership before were buying political memberships by the thousands. And in the end, with a huge, hard-fought voting campaign within the party itself, Jason Kenney was dislodged as the leader of the party, a sitting premier. Now, Parker kind of faded off, as did the Take Back Alberta movement itself. But thousands and thousands of people renewed their memberships. That's what we're seeing. Thousands and thousands of people are now engaged who weren't engaged before. They're still going to AGMs. They're still participating in their constituency associations. They're still working the ground. And that's changed everything. That's why last year in Red Deer, their AGM, UCP AGM, was the biggest one ever held in Canadian history. Even though there really wasn't anything all that controversial happening. There was a leadership review for Smith, but she came in well over 90% support from the members who were there. But you have now these thousands of engaged people who want to come out to these things. When the Wildrose Party was heading, they were the official opposition. We would hold AGMs. I remember one in Calgary at the TELUS Convention Center. I think we had maybe 800 people, and we were thrilled by how huge this thing was, how big it was. Now, as I said, Edmonton, expensive, bad weather, and still 4,400 people paid the money, drove all the way up there to take part in policy formulation, voting for their that was something that was, kind of interesting going on in this one. There was a definite slate trying to push with some of the party executive positions. And of course, as I keep mentioning with the others, and Dave mentioned, both Daves mentioned, the socializing. The reason, that Dave number one had to sleep all the way back from Edmonton to Calgary that morning. As he said, I only drink Diet Coke, so I was fine. But some people were a little bleary-eyed. But that's the important part. And, we talk about the hospitality suite. The Western Standard held. It was huge. Free drinks, the works, quite a party going on. Politics can be fun. It doesn't always have to be drudgery, and you kind of need that. When you're sitting through a whole day of voting on policy and people fighting over the placement of a comma in a policy document or something like that, and that's kind of part of what comes with it, to be able to cut loose at the suites and so on and socialize. You're getting together with other people of the same mind, and you bond. This is a powerful, powerful party. This is, again, the people who do love Smith still at this point, getting together, uniting, having a good time together, sharing what they have in common with things. And that means the UCP is formidable, very much so. And if you're an organizer, whether it's a advocacy group or a political party or whatever, just keep that in mind. You want to make your group strong. Make sure it's not always drudgery. Have events in your constituency that are fun. Get together, do things where you can socialize. You want your your people are truly what makes that party, and you want them to know each other by name. You want them to look forward to coming out to these things and not feel it's an obligation. So again, and I have a lot of differences with Mr. Parker. We've had those differences a lot, but I do have to tip a hat to him. He engaged this province and it stayed that way. But now we got to make sure, or at least Premier Smith has to make sure, that she can keep this under control. She's got the tiger by the tail. And I do feel a referendum is the best tool to do that. I don't think she should take a side in one. I don't think she should become full pro-independence. That would be crazy. It would be political suicide. It would lead to Premier Nenshi. And then you'll never, ever, ever have a referendum vote, or at least not while he's alive or in power. But she's got a very good case to say it's the will of Albertans to hold one. Would a referendum win tomorrow? No. No, I really don't think so. I think at best tomorrow, 30, maybe 35% if a referendum was held. But with 6 months of campaigning, with the MOU proving itself to be complete junk and garbage and just a dodge, a distraction, a pretty thing to hang over there for Albertans whilst he ignores what we need, that can change, and that can change fast. And a lot of things can change fast. Talk about populism. Brexit, for example, not necessarily the best example of a clean break or anything, but still, people who poo-pooed it when that campaign was getting going over there. People said it was never going to happen. The people will never go that way. It was all the academics, all of the tall foreheads, all of the media, all the usual clowns talking down to people, saying, the masses don't want this. This is dumb. Don't do it. Well, guess what? They were wrong. And people actually used that vote to give them the middle finger. They used it to push back. So if a referendum campaign is held in Alberta, it won't be important just how much the proponents of independence campaign, but how the rest of the country and the opponents to independence respond to it. Because if they talk down their noses to Albertans, they insult Albertans, and God, we get a lot of it, right? We're the hillbillies, we're the rednecks. I saw somebody else saying, it's going to be Texas North, and that's my post online was so. He called that a bad thing. I can think of worse things than being prosperous and free. But don't take a referendum for granted on either side of the issue, because we have an activated, galvanized electorate. And the Alberta Prosperity Project, I'm not a member of them, but I've spoken at some of their chapter meetings. They've done quite a job on organizing all around the province. They do have hundreds of thousands of people ready to roll when the referendum comes. That's part of what the problem is. They've got them ready. They're sitting there, they're like racehorses in the gate. They want to get at it, and the gate's not opening, and that's why, again, that pressure's turning inwards. And we saw Smith booed at her own AGM. She's still very popular. There's no doubt about it. But when you were booed at your own AGM, you do have to take that seriously. And I mean, it was what she was saying rather than her herself. And yeah, the elephant in the room is indigenous bands. Got to stand up to them. And even if it's not just the pipeline guys, we've really screwed this country up with this mythology and giving a certain race of people a veto power and authority that it's just dividing us, and it's not working. Things are getting worse and worse on reserves. Go out and have a look at one. Check out my YouTube channel, CORY Morgan. Search it out on YouTube. I've been charged by the Siksika band for exposing how bad it is. They're after they were given $1.2 billion. It's failing. It's failing them. It's hurting them. It's costing us. It's failing them. Here's another one just came out. The government of BC gave $6 million to 3 First Nations that claim Vancouver is their ancestral territory ahead of the FIFA World Cup. How the Musqueam, Squamish, and some other unpronounceable First Nation will spend the cash has not been revealed. In other words, just, here, have some money, shut up. But they won't shut up. They're just taking more money. We saw in the case of BC as well, University of Victoria, Francis Widdowson was arrested for carrying a sign saying, where's the 215? It was talking about the hoax in Kamloops of the fake burial of 215 children out there. Arrested for trying to discuss this sort of thing. We need resolution, not throwing more money at it. That band was given $12 million, even more than these guys got for doing nothing with the FIFA World Cup coming along. It's an extortion racket at this point. They were given $12 million to search for bodies. We're supposedly all in one small field, and they didn't dig a hole. And they want more money. They always want more money. And I could live with it if everybody was living the high life and they were doing all right on these reserves, but they aren't. They're in squalor, and there's garbage all over the place. And There's social ills, and they're dying. They're dying young. That's how bad it is. I've talked about that before. Search it out. The average male First Nations person in Alberta dies 19 years younger than everybody else. Try to tell me that we're supposed to maintain this system when that's the stat. All right, that's what I got today, guys. Tune into the pipeline tonight. We'll be breaking down some more issues and going on in those. And again, yes, this studio has been busy. Poor John's been running like crazy, recording all sorts of interviews and news updates. So subscribe to all those channels, share them, subscribe to the Standard. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week at this time again with a whole new raft of issues to go on about.